So he's one of the biggest writer-directors in the business today, the most popular, having created Firefly, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and directed the Avengers films. Why is nobody standing by Joss Whedon right now? Fans and peers stood by James Gunn and actually got his job reinstated when Disney fired him after his Twitter revealed a long history of making light of child abuse. And that was a big deal. Everybody was talking about how peculiar that was, and yet still, people found the courage to stand by James Gunn despite all of this and say, oh, these were just jokes. It's no big deal. Let's bring James Gunn back and get him hired. And when he was rehired, when James Gunn was rehired, it was a cause célèbre. Everybody was celebrating it and acting like they had done something good. His co-stars stood by him and rallied behind him when fellow MCU actor Chris Pratt was attacked by the internet mindless mobs of SJWs who declared that he was the worst Chris, presumably because of his conservative Republican beliefs. And Robert Downey Jr. stood up for him in his own social media, and well-known cast members who are social justice activists like the oppressively horrible Mark Ruffalo also stood behind Chris Pratt and backed down the mindless mob. So why is nobody backing down the mindless mob for this guy? Or is it a mindless mob? Welcome to Comic Artist Pro Secrets. I'm Ethan Van Sciver. Let's take a look at this. Before we begin, I want to thank you all for joining me and supporting this channel. I really appreciate you for subscribing, liking, sharing these videos. The channel's growing really quickly. I want to ask you to please consider backing Cyberfrog Wrecked Planet. That's my comic book. The link is in the description below. But if you can't do that, just sharing this video around, liking this video, leaving a comment, subscribing, and ringing the bell for notifications really helps this channel grow. And that's just as good. Believe me, that's great. So anyway, this is from Den of Geek here. Fandom's royal online as Joss Whedon suddenly quits in the middle of the afternoon for no particular reason, taking all of his possessions with him, his new HBO show, The Nevers. And this is a peculiar thing that happened this week, suddenly out of the blue, and with very strange phrasing from HBO that sounds kind of familiar. Joss Whedon and HBO have parted ways in his new TV project, The Nevers, as the Snyder Cut and Justice League prepares its release on HBO Max. All right, so here's the situation. Joss Whedon did take over directing the Justice League movie, the disastrous Justice League movie, after poor Zack Snyder had to leave for a great big awful family emergency. He had filmed quite a bit of the movie, but apparently only about 20% of it remained in the final version that was directed and written by Joss Whedon, who came in at the behest of Jeff Johns, changing the whole context of the movie. And evidently, from what we understand, the cast was not happy with the final version of the movie at all because it changed the context of everything. One person in particular was really unhappy with the movie, and that is Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher has been very vocal, complaining about the fact that his entire role, everything that Ray Fisher was going to be in this movie. He played a character called Cyborg. We're calling him Cryborg now because, frankly, Ray Fisher has been crying about this for at least 6 months now. He was unhappy because Joss Whedon basically changed the entire plot of the Justice League so that it did not center on Cyborg anymore. There was an interesting thing that was going on here. Jeff Johns, who I worked with at DC Comics, was very fond of the character Cyborg and lifted him up out of the Teen Titans, placed him in the Justice League, and really was trying to make Cyborg more of a heavy hitter for DC Comics. I don't know why. I think the character's extremely boring. Your mileage may vary. His name's Cyborg. How much? It's Cyborg. You couldn't call him something else? You couldn't come up with something more creative than that? But Cyborg, anyway. So Cyborg, Ray Fisher's character was supposed to save the day in the movie. In the Zack Snyder version of the movie, which we may see unaltered, once it hits HBO Max, we might see the final version in which this situation is restored. Ray Fisher was going to save the day as Cyborg. Everything came down to him, and it was kind of a switcheroo. Ordinarily, you would expect Superman to save the day. He's the leader of superheroes. I mean, he's the most important superhero in the world. He always saves the day. But wouldn't it be interesting if it all came down to Ray Fisher? And I think Ray Fisher was disgusted by the fact that his part was mostly eliminated. It was whittled down by a disinterested Joss Whedon. Now, the movie bombed. It was a disaster. Everybody who worked on it and made decisions on it, unfortunately, lost their jobs. Heads have to roll when a movie loses tens of millions of dollars at the box office that was meant to jumpstart an entire franchise for Warner Brothers, and heads did roll. Much later, Ray Fisher came out and basically said that conditions on the set were abusive and toxic and just horrible. Very sad. He stood alone. Nobody, first of all, he didn't explain what he was talking about. He blamed Joss Whedon, and he said Joss Whedon was enabled by John Berg and Jeff Johns. And he let this criticism stand for an awful long time and demanded an investigation. Now, we didn't think much of it. I didn't think much of it. I didn't think that this was anything but a complaining actor who was bitter over the fact that no job offers had come his way subsequent to his role in the Justice League. And it's no wonder. I mean, he didn't really do that great of a job in the movie that we saw. Maybe we're going to see some mind-blowing footage in the Zack Snyder cut. We'll see how that goes. But he didn't really do anything substantial, anything significant, in my opinion. And I just thought it was a complaining, whining actor. Cryborg. Until suddenly, Jason Momoa, who played Aquaman and who is much more beloved and important to Warner Brothers, because Aquaman is a very successful franchise, and they're going to make Aquaman 2. Aquaman actually makes money. Jason Momoa has skin in the game. He's got something on the line, and he stepped forward and said, this shit has to stop and needs to be looked at. Ray Fisher and everyone else who experienced what happened under the watch of Warner Brothers Pictures needs proper investigation. I just think it's effed up that people released a fake Frosty announcement. I like Jason Momoa. I don't really understand. Like, he doesn't really give context to what he's talking about here. But in the middle of Ray Fisher's, complaining, Warner Brothers must have gotten wind that Jason Momoa was probably going to break ranks and stand by Ray Fisher, and they released this announcement that Jason Momoa was going to star in a Frosty the Snowman movie. And it was peculiar. Everybody said, what? That's odd. Now here's Jason Momoa saying that was just a red herring. That was just something to distract people and maybe to appease Jason Momoa, get him to back down and realize, where his bread is buttered. So he's angry about that. He's saying a fake. He called it a fake Frosty announcement. He says, without my permission, to try to distract from Ray Fisher speaking up about the shitty way we were treated on the Justice League reshoots. Serious stuff went down. Serious stuff went down. It needs to be investigated, and people need to be held accountable. Hashtag I stand with Ray Fisher. Aloha, Jay. Now that actually shook the floorboards. That changed the entire face of this investigation, and Warner Brothers did begin an investigation, which Ray Fisher did cast aspersions about it. He said that Warner Brothers was probably not acting in good faith by hiring their own investigators. Maybe they'd be able to come to their own conclusions in this way. But what ended up happening instead was this announcement. Presumably, again, we don't know what this investigation entailed. We don't know what came out of this investigation. But this is incredibly strange. All of a sudden, Joss Whedon, who, again, let me just re-emphasize, extremely powerful director, somebody who, has made money for Warner Brothers, not in this case, not in the Justice League case, but was also making plans to have a new series. He's excellent at television. I don't think anybody would deny that he has created some pop culture masterpieces. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is beloved by almost everyone, and Firefly is a legendary lost classic, cult hit. People still complain that was canceled after only one season. And here's Joss Whedon coming up with a new TV series for HBO called The Nevers, that he was going to write, direct, he was going to produce, he was going to do all of this stuff. And it was canceled suddenly. An HBO issued a statement that said, we have parted ways with Joss Whedon. That doesn't sound to me like HBO is saying, just better luck next time, thumbhead. We'll do something else together in the future. That means we're not working together anymore. When we say we parted ways, that is corporate speak for you're fired, and we don't want to. Please do not darken our doorways ever again. So interesting. Now, what caused this? Look, Joss Whedon has been going through many PR disasters over time. His divorce from his wife, Kai Cole. After their divorce, Cole penned an article for The Wrap wherein she referred to Whedon as "quote unquote" a hypocrite preaching feminist ideals. Considering the fact that this guy is best known for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it basically cemented his role as one of the most well-known voices in pop culture male feminism. These accusations were devastating, absolutely devastating to Joss Whedon and how his work was perceived, and that was the beginning of the chiseling of Joss Whedon's entire world. Whedon's ex-wife, Kai Cole, accused him of posturing as a feminist. Oh, you don't say. Are you saying that men posture as feminists in order to hide their infidelities and poor behavior? I am astounded by this accusation. Well, it's true. She claims that he wrote her a letter that said, quote, "It's not like I killed you, but that I'd done it subtly over years, that I'd been poisoning you, chipping away at you." And she said, quote, "He deceived me for 15 years so he could have everything he wanted. Everyone believed that he was one of the good guys, committed to fighting for women's rights, committed to our marriage, and to the women he worked with. But I now see how he used his relationship with me as a shield, both during and after our marriage, so no one would question his relationships with other women or scrutinize his writing as anything other than feminist." Actress Charisma Carpenter may agree. She played a pivotal role in Joss Whedon's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as well as its spin-off Angel. Just before season 4 of Angel, Charisma Carpenter informed the production and Joss Whedon that she was pregnant, which is allegedly when things began to deteriorate between them. In the 4th season, her character's story took a strange turn for the outlandishly evil, culminating with a coma from which she never emerged. At the time, viewers wondered if Carpenter had been written out of the series because she was preggo. Speculation Whedon appeared to refute in a 2003 interview with TV Guide. He claimed Carpenter's storyline had simply played itself out, and he added that any reported tensions between us, me and the actress, are stuff between us, and not stuff that I want to talk about in an interview. However, Charisma Carpenter did come forward herself in 2009 and suggested that her pregnancy had indeed been a factor in her departure from Angel. She said, "What happened was that my relationship with Joss became strained. We all go through stuff in general, behind the scenes, and I was going through my stuff, and then I became pregnant. And I guess in his mind, he had a different way of seeing the 4th season and how it was going to go." She said, "I think Joss was honestly mad. I think he was mad at me, and I say that in a loving way, which is, it's a very complicated dynamic working for somebody for so many years, and the expectations, and also being on the show for 8 years, you got to live your life. And sometimes living your life gets in the way of maybe the creator's vision for the future, and that becomes conflict, and that was my experience. So it's likely, according to Carpenter and fans, that this is correct. This is what happened to her character." She said, "It wasn't necessarily graceful on either side, so it was difficult, I think, for them to accomplish what they needed to accomplish with a female lead in the position I was in. But these things can be done, and they have been done, and I'm sure they've been done gracefully in the past with other productions." Well, not with Joss Whedon. And then there's Joss Whedon's original script for the Wonder Woman movie, which went unused, but was discovered by the internet, and feminists called it sexist. They found it to be almost pornographic in its descriptions of Wonder Woman, which wasn't what they were looking for. Not only that, they complained that the airplane that Steve Trevor was flying had the pronoun she, and they didn't like that. They didn't like the airplane's pronouns. But here's a little bit of the script from Joss Whedon about Wonder Woman. Quote, "Then she moves her leg back and turns fluidly, a curve rippling up her body as she folds into a dance that is sensual, ethereal, and wicked sexy. This is not a warrior march. Though it remains idiosyncratic, it is neither out of place nor unnoticed on the crowded floor." Griffin and Ben watch with their male gaze, enraptured. Ben, "Are you watching this?" Griffin, big-eyed, "It's like Christmas." And this bit of dialogue from Steve Trevor aimed at Wonder Woman. He says, "I think you're dangerous. I think you mean well, but you're looking for trouble, and you're wildly adept at finding it. I think you've got delusions of grandeur, and some actual grandeur, which is confusing. I don't like confusing. I hate the fact that I'm so attracted to you. Just touching you is overwhelming, and I keep hoping you'll turn around so I can see more of you naked. So with all this in mind, who knows what the Warner Brothers investigation into Joss Whedon and the production of Justice League discovered? But whatever it was enough to dismiss Joss Whedon from HBO, and fans are acting in a kind of resigned sort of way. Can't pretend I'm not disappointed about the Joss Whedon news and that whole situation. His work was a massive influence on me. We know. Joss Whedon's writing has influenced the way SJWs and millennials all speak, and for that, I'd like to fire him out of a cannon. His work was a massive influence on me. Love Buffy and Angel, Ultron. My favorite of his Avengers films. I guess the truth will out, but still, this is deflating. It is very deflating. Scott the Human here says, I don't know how I feel about Joss Whedon, probably because there's very little actual facts to work with, just word of mouth. I guess I'll hold my tongue then. Worst hot take ever. Yeah, go ahead and, just wait and see how it goes. Now, the thing is, Joss Whedon is so powerful that very few people have been willing to actually come out and speak out against him up till now. I'm sure that the tide will turn and eventually people who were holding their tongues will come out and speak a little bit more, like Charisma Carpenter did, like Ray Fisher did, like Jason Momoa did. Look at this guy. But this is the most interesting thing to me. Again, like I started this video with, James Gunn gets fired, Marvel actors come to his aid. Chris Pratt gets canceled, Marvel actors come to his aid. Joss Whedon under investigation. Marvel actors are crickets. There's a reason why the Avengers haven't assembled for the latter. And then, of course, this is accountability is more important than entertainment, something that I profoundly disagree with. Having said that, though, this is an interesting question. Why is nobody coming forward and defending Joss Whedon, this very powerful man? What else are we going to uncover about him? What else are we going to discover about Joss Whedon? It really does seem like everyone knows a big secret and they're afraid to say so. But pretty fascinating stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Any help that you can give to this channel, I really appreciate it. And I'll be back soon with another video. Take care, everyone. Hey, I got a P.O. box. Want to send me some mail? Send it to Ethan Van Sciver, P.O. Box 607, Marlton, New Jersey, 08053. And I'll probably open it up on a live stream. Thanks very much, everyone. Hey, you want to follow me on Twitter? Are you sure? Well, if so, I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. That's at Ethan Van Sciver. See you there.